last boring video here for a while. Again, I'm sitting here trying to calculate um, what what would make more sense if I were to buy. I don't know that I'm going to buy a Tahoe or lease a Tahoe, but it's in my options of what we're going to use to replace Michelle's the type of car that we're going to use to replace Michelle's Explorer Sport. She has a lease, and if you didn't watch the leasing video, the reason why I leased the thing is just for peace of mind, and the lease rate was fantastic. It was way much better. The calculation of money outlay, cash flow, and just total cost. The interest, the rate of interest was much lower on the lease option versus the purchase. So I leased the Explorer, and then it gives me a lot of peace of mind that I don't have to think about it. So again, I'm having a hard time figuring out how to get the video synced. There was some video and audio sync issues, so I'm not gonna. You don't need to look at me anyway. Let's just look at the math here. So I did the lease calculation here earlier, and so let's sort of do this together. I'll take you through the thought process. I haven't really done this yet, but I'll take you through the thought process um, of of leasing and what I'm sorry, of financing and how I would think through that. So the first thing you got to do is you got to figure out where you're going to get the loan. Just for simplicity here, let's just go to Bank of America and look up their auto rates. Um, you can get probably one of the I would guess one of the cheapest places. You can go to bankrate.com, but I've always read and heard about. I've never actually bought a car through PenFed, but the Pentagon Federal Credit Union, which I think anybody can join. You just have to write them a check for like $10 or something. But their auto loan, if you're going to go buy a new car, I think they're pretty awesome. I mean, here's a 4-year loan up to 100 grand at 1.49%. If you want a 5-year loan, 2.25, 2.75. So auto rates are extremely low. So let's look at what a big bank would have. So let's go to loans, and this isn't rocket science. Just go look it up. So let's go Florida, and go. And I want our new car. Let's look at rates. Dealer new. So your 60 months is going to be somewhere around 2.5 versus 2.25. That's a pretty significant difference. I think if you're, you probably get some, see, if you're like a rewards member, you get like 50 bips off or something like that. So, it depends on whatever. I would go to whatever bank you bank with to try to get a decent rate. So, dealer new is what we're talking about here. So it would be at 2.5%. Let's just use this as sort of an average going rate. Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Wachovia doesn't exist anymore. Chase, you're going to pay something similar. So let's work off of 2.5%. So let's minimize this. I'm uploading the video. So let's say 2.5%, 2.49% on a 60-month loan or 5-year loan, right? 5-year. Okay. And then remember, if you didn't watch the other video, you wouldn't know this, but the MSRP on the Tahoe is $59,950. And again, I'm assuming I'm not getting any discounts. Just for apples to apples comparison, I'm just sort of comparing or showing you this here. But if I negotiated a price, I would try to calculate more accurate numbers and try to do an analysis, like a 3-year analysis, to see what I thought the Tahoe was going to be worth versus the amount of cash I laid out. So tax, you're talking, the way it works in Florida is you pay a flat 6%, and then you tack on the sort of the county surplus or county extra capped at $50. So basically, you just cap it at $50 because I'm in Lake County. I'm at 7%. So it's 6%. So 59,950. Our regular old calculator. 59,950 times 0.06 equals that plus $50 is 3647. 3647. Again, the $50 is the max. So well, okay, let's say for instance, well, let's subtract the $50 out here. So it's 59,950 times 6%. It's $3,597. And then my county tax is an extra 1%. So the general state income tax or state sales tax is 6, Lake County 7. So theoretically, I'd have to pay another 1% of 59,950. But in Florida, the way they do it is it's capped at $50, which is stupid. Why even waste the time? So the county gets an extra $50. So that's where I come up with a 3647. So when you finance a car, of course, a big difference is I got to pay this tax up front. So let's assume I'm not going to put any money down. I'm going to roll that into the cost. So I'm going to take that plus that to get my total value that I'm going to finance. And then again, let's say there's a dealer fee and tax or title and tag registration. It's another $1,000. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this plus this to get my total number. So I already did it over here. So it's 64,596. 64,596 is the total purchase price. This is again assuming I'm not putting any money down. I'm just walking in and financing the whole thing. At 2.5%, assuming I have money sitting in cash, I probably would, if I had $30,000 in my checking account that I wasn't earning anything, I'd certainly be better off putting it down here, assuming I had other money in the bank to back me up in case I needed it. So this is where if you don't know how to do this, you could certainly go online and get a calculator. But I would suggest you go to the store, buy yourself or buy the app. I think this app is like $13 or something like this. But get yourself a financial calculator, and I can teach you how to do this. We can talk about the exact specifics of the value of a future annuity due and how periods per year and all this stuff works. But when you buy a house, when you buy a car, the calculation is the same. And so I think that if you're a grown-up, you should probably know how to do this. Unless you just have tons of cash and you're always paying cash for everything, then maybe you need some other type of advice. But in the real world, I think that every guy, especially if you're a car guy, if you don't know how to do this on a calculator, you should probably learn. So I'll show you how to do this. Real simple. So this is your normal $20 HP. This is what it looks like if you go to the store and buy it, HP 10B2. Simple, basic financial calculator. So I'm always going to clear it. So I hit the orange and clear all, just so I can start fresh to make sure I'm not working with some old numbers. So the way that this works is you have to make sure you're setting it up right. So because if I'm ever buying a house or a car, I need to make sure I have it on 12 periods or payments per year. So I changed my periods per year to 12. So basically what I would do is I'd click 12, the shift function, periods per year, to make sure it's 12. If I had it at 1, this would mean I'd be making one payment per year, and it doesn't compound properly. So we want to do 12 periods per year because it's we're going to be doing a typical type loan. Again, we're doing a 60-month loan here. So this is so simple that you should really learn. Don't even worry about any of these other sort of crazy numbers. All we need are the basic number keys and then the top area here, which is our time value of money calculation. So 59,950 plus the tax plus my fees. I assumed that my total was $64,596, right? So I typed in 64,596. I think I read that wrong. So I type this number in. Now this is my present value. This is the amount of money that I'm going to borrow. So today I'm borrowing $64,596. And because I'm borrowing it, we're going to call this a negative. So you would always sort of, a present value is typically a negative. We can get into why if you send me an email, and I'll help you with that later on. But that's going to be my present value. So I entered the number in. I make it negative because it's a cash sort of outflow, if you will, and I'm going to call that my present value. Okay. I know what the interest rate is, 2.49, so 2.49 is the interest per year. So I enter that, so you can see my numbers there. And now can get tricky, but the simple thing to do here is, remember, I have a 5-year loan, but I have 60 months. So I have two options. I can either enter 60 and just hit the number here, or I could do 5 shift, which gives me the same 60. Because I have 12 periods per year. 12 times 5 is 60. So if you wanted to do it shorthand, if I had a mortgage, I would do 30 shift, and I would get 360 payments for a 30-year mortgage. So in this case, again, we're doing 5 years. So five years worth of 12 payments or 60 payments. And then at the end of 5 years, my loan is paid off. So on the actual 10B2 calculator, you don't need to enter the zero. That's why we cleared it out beforehand. So now I've got the equation. I only have one thing that I'm solving for, and that's the payment. How much am I going to pay per month? So you can see how simple this is. Simple time value of money. If you don't know how to do this, get a calculator and practice it. This is something that you should, if you're a grown-up, you should probably know how to do. And even before I was in finance, I knew how to calculate a simple payment, or figure out an amortization schedule. So boom, click payment. There's my payment. So my monthly payment is $1,146.12, including tax, is my monthly payment. Because again, we applied tax here, so I'm paying. And we can actually just get rid of this. That includes everything. So remember, if we go back here to our lease payment, we were paying about 2.5%, 2.4%. We were paying interest on the sort of the whole amount of cash flow that was laid out on an average daily basis. So our payment was $928. So the big question here. So the difference in cost, assuming I put no money down, the same MSRP. Obviously, if I got a discount off MSRP, that would help me out, just like it does in a lease. But I'm laying out $1,100, so we can use our calculator here. Let's clear all, and let's do 11. So now you just have to start reasoning out. Which is better? Which should I do? Minus 928. Again, this wasn't, in my opinion, a particularly great. These weren't particularly good release terms. So I'm talking $218 a month to buy the car. Wait, what was that? 218. Oh wait. Difference. What's the difference? Leasing and financing. Now there's some problems here in trying to sort of compare this. You're not comparing apples to apples. Because a lease, the advantage of the lease is I know what I'm going to get. I know what the car is going to be worth. If I choose to put the lease back to the bank, then just hand it in. Here you go, give it back. I know that the residual value is $31,773, so I know that I'm paying. I know this is the maximum amount of money I'm going to pay out, $34,409. So after 3 years, I know what I'm basically financing my depreciation. I'm paying for that in monthly payments, and then I'm going to give it back. So I put 36,000 miles here. That was the assumption that I was making. So actually, we can just get rid of this part here because we changed the assumptions here. So we have our financing. So let's put this down here. So we have our comparison. This is finance. And then this is lease. So again, the question is, and let's just put this in bold down here so we know the difference. That's per month. So this isn't like a simple thing where you can calculate specifically. There's a couple of unknowns. One, we don't know what the car is going to be worth at the end of this period. How many miles are we going to put on it? How many, how much wear and tear is going to be on it? What's that particular car going to be worth? So with financing, I tend to err on the side of if the monthly payment's relatively close, which here, $218 a month is not all that different. If it was $300, $400, $500 difference, or if it was a bigger percentage difference, this is what, maybe 25% difference in cost, monthly cash flow, I should say, then I might, if it was a lot more than that, I'd certainly consider leasing. In this case, again, the lease terms weren't all that fantastic, so with this car, at my first glance is I'd probably buy the thing. Now this calculator, and this gets a little bit more complicated, this calculator, I'm sure I could buy it, but doesn't give me the option to look at interest and principal values at the end of a certain period of time. But theoretically what I could do is I could say, okay, after 3 years, I'm going to have 45,000 miles. After 3 years, 36 months. And then I sell the car, right? Then sell it. So the unknown is, what is it worth? Right? So what is a $59,000, $950 car worth at the end of 3 years and 45,000 miles? Well, the dealer thinks, or the bank thinks, it's going to be worth $31,773. So again, a number of factors here as they come out with a new model. Did I beat the car up? What's the, can I find someone to buy it? Am I going to trade it in versus selling it privately? So all this stuff, all these questions just stress me out. So if I only intend to keep the car for 3 years, then I would probably certainly lease it. So really the financing becomes significantly more cost effective should I want to just keep it for, and that's what you should do, is I should just keep it for 5 or 6 years, 7, 8 years, as long as I can, and maintain it, and then it will certainly cost me less over time. Again, obviously the least costly way to do this would be, assuming your money isn't invested, is to just pay cash and get it over with. So let's assume, let's say we just do a simple interest calculation here, just because our calculator doesn't give us this option. That might be a little bit beyond the scope of this calculation. But let's say, because there's no amortization function here. Maybe I can do it on my calculator here real quick. Let me pause the video and I'll get these numbers for you. So I ran it on my calculator. It's just I got a HP, or not an HP, a Texas Instruments BA2 Plus here sitting in front of me. So let me do this over here. So again, this is how I would analyze. I don't know if this is the right way to do it or not, but this is the way I do it. So in 36 months, I've paid $3,470.62 in interest. Right? I have paid $37,789.84 in principal. It's principal paid, and I still owe. I still owe, the balance is $26,806.16. This is what is owed. So you can see on this amortizing, so sort of 60-month loan, I owe $26,000, but yet on the lease they're saying that I still owe $31,000. So in this case, the financing, I think that makes it pretty cut and dry to me. Now, I've laid out more money here, right? Because I've laid out about $40,000 versus $34,000. So there's a $6,000 difference there, and so it matches up pretty closely, and that's largely because the interest here is about the same. Because again, you're paying interest on the whole money, all the money that the leasing company's laying out. So I owe 26 grand. So let's just make some assumptions here. I owe 26 grand. Let's say, again, I have 45,000 miles on the thing, and I'm going to sell it on the exact same thing as I would on the 3-year lease. So if I'm going to sell it, the question is, what's the thing worth? So let's just say it's worth 50% less. So the lease was 53. Let's just say it's 50 because I've dinged it up and it just doesn't look very good. So the thing is worth, go back to my regular calculator. So this is where it gets a little tricky. It's not an exact science here. So 50 to 59,950. I guess you can go look at black book values and stuff like that, or blue book values. But I'm just going to say, let's assume it's worth 50% less because of, I just can't find anybody to buy it. Or this is what I'm going to get on a trade-in. $29,975 is what it's worth. So that's what I sell it for. Let's do this. Then I owe 26, so I'm going to subtract the 26 or 806. Sorry, 26,806 equals 3169. That's how much cash I'm going to have back in my pocket. 3169. So again, I borrowed 64 grand. I laid out $1,100 a month, which is these two combined, right? So I'm 11, 46, 12 times 36. Oops, I'm supposed to be doing this on the screen with you. 1146.12 times 36. So I've laid out, so that number equals this number here, or at least it should. So that's 41,260.32 is how much cash, that's how much cash you paid, laid out. But you're getting 3,100 back because, again, we're selling it for 29, we only owe 26. So I'm going to get minus 3169 back. So that means my total cash outlay over, what was I calling it here? My 3-year cost. So let's call it my 3-year cost to finance. 3-year cost, what did I put, of financing equals 38,091.32. So if I were going to buy the car and sell it in 3 years in this particular example, then I'm it's about what is that, $3,500 cheaper to lease it. Now again, this isn't a perfect comparison because who the heck knows? Maybe I could sell it for more, maybe I could sell it for less, I don't know. So if I have any intention of selling it in 3 years, if I can negotiate a little bit better lease rates, maybe a little better money factor, if I can buy it down like on a BMW, or maybe I can negotiate a better cap cost. Again, I could do the same thing here in financing, but if I were to to negotiate a little bit better terms, again, it just depends on what you're going to do with the car. If you intend to keep it, then financing is certainly that next year. Financing will be cheaper, or less costly. And then the more years you keep it past financing, the better off you're going to be. be. So, but do notice if you sell the car, you're sort of basically, the basic difference is you're kind of losing the tax. You pay the tax up front, and it just becomes a little bit more complicated. Of course, you'll get a most states allow you to trade it in and get a sort of an offset on the taxes owed, but the key to this is decide whether you want to own it for a long time or not. I think, and if you do, then there's usually not really much reason to look at the lease unless you just know there's some fantastic lease terms. But it can't hurt to run the calculation. So this is the thought process I go through if I'm going to buy a car. So now I have a basic idea of what a Tahoe is going to cost me. What I would do is rerun all this stuff after I figure out what I'm actually going to pay. What's the actual cost? What options am I actually going to get? And then I would do this for multiple cars, and then I'd have a reasonable idea of what I should be paying. I don't have to go in and negotiate and worry about getting screwed by the finance guy. I already know sort of within reason, and I usually don't even take this stuff with me because I've analyzed it from a few different angles, and then I'll know which is the best option to choose. Again, hopefully you're fortunate enough, and I'm fortunate enough. Someday we're not going to worry about any of this crap. But even if you are, wealthy and have tons of cash, if if you have the money invested, if you earn 8 and you're paying 2.5 in interest, it might make sense to hold the debt. So anyway, just thought it was something. I was sitting here at the computer crunching these numbers, so I figured I'd do it with you rather than do it on my own, so you can kind of see the thought process that goes through that. If you're a young guy and you haven't really bought a car yet, maybe this will help you think through it. But get yourself a darn financial calculator, no matter what you do for a living, and learn how to use these top buttons on how to do a simple time value of money calculation. You can do the same thing with a house, with a car, things that you're buying, and you're going to get a loan on student loans. So basically anything that's a typical amortizing loan, you would want to. Home equity lines would usually be simple interest, at least for the first 10 years or so. But it's just something you don't need to know how to do cash flow, irregular cash flows and things like that. You can learn that if you're into finance, but it's just something that you wouldn't really want to do by hand. It would take you forever. So you'd be better off figuring out figuring out how you're gonna figuring out the main functions of time value of money. So again, I don't have any definitive answer here on this particular topic on leasing versus financing. In this case, I would have to really sort of think about it and just make a decision. What am I going to do? Am I going to keep the car for a long time? Do we really like the car? Or do I care more about lollipops stuck to the door and I just want to get rid of it? And with my wife, I'm inclined to just lease the thing and get a new one in 3 years and not have to worry about it. The disadvantage, of course, is that I'm always going to have a car payment, forever. But if I'm going to buy and sell cars every 3 years anyway, then it'd probably in most cases be it may not be better off, because if you buy the right car and you don't put as many miles on it, you could sell it for maybe more than what you paid in depreciation. But at least I know for certain what I'm going to get. So it's a way for me to sort of plan specifically and have a sort of a more predictable cash outflow rather than a potential windfall should I happen to buy the right car that happens to be worth a lot more at the end of my period of ownership. So anyway, I thought you guys might be interested in that. If you're not interested in this kind of stuff, if you're interested in cars, you're interested in buying them, and you have to pay for them somehow. So when you're ready to buy a car, you might want to pull up these videos. If you're a young guy and you don't know how to use a calculator yet, go buy one. It'll save you money if you do this right, so you don't get jerked around by the finance guys at the dealer. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more.